There are three things that symbolize Luffy: the straw hat, Gomu Gomu no Mi, and the D. Regarding his devil fruit, it was revealed that its true name is the Hito Hito no Mi, model Nika, which turns its user into the Warrior of Liberation. Currently, Vegapunk is discussing the significance of D in a broadcast to the world. The only remaining symbol to discuss is the straw hat. A certain pirate named Luffy is widely known as Straw Hat Luffy. Why is he called Straw Hat Luffy? This likely stems from the initial bounty request the Navy received, which described him as the pirate Luffy who wears a straw hat. Incidentally, if Nezumi had reported him as the Rubber Man to the Navy at that time, the world government might have moved quickly to eliminate Luffy. Given the current clumsy responses of the five elders, they probably wouldn't have been able to eliminate Luffy anyway. By the way, this is probably not just an ordinary hat. It must hold significant meaning. One key point is that Roger, who somehow knew that the world needed to be turned upside down, wore the straw hat. This implies a connection between the straw hat and the idea of bringing about a major transformation in the world, and he passed it down to the next generation, to Shanks, highlighting its importance. Moreover, an identical hat design is kept at the pinnacle of the world, further indicating its significance. Personally, I believe the biggest hint regarding this hat lies in this particular scene. It's the dialogue when Shanks entrusts the straw hat to Luffy. The literal translation of his words is, "I'm entrusting this hat to you. It's a very important hat to me. One day, make sure to bring it back as a great pirate." However, I think there's a hidden meaning in these words. The Japanese used here can have entirely different interpretations. This, I believe, reveals the true meaning of the straw hat, which is also connected to the significance of the letter D. Actually, Oda-sensei often uses the unique characteristics of the Japanese language to hide important meanings behind seemingly simple words, just like how Raftel turned out to be Laugh-tail. Another recent popular theory involves Roger's words. He said, "I left everything in this world there." The word soko in Japanese not only means there, but can also mean bottom. With Vegapunk's broadcast revealing that a past continent is submerged under the sea, it's entirely possible that Roger was referring to the bottom of the ocean. While no one knows the exact location of Laugh-tail yet, it's plausible to interpret that the entirety of the past world exists at the bottom of the sea. This shows how Japanese words with the same pronunciation can have completely different meanings. This channel is run by a native Japanese speaker who explains One Piece from the perspective of reading the original version. Recently, more and more people have been referencing theories from this channel, and I'm happy to see that Dusk's videos are reaching a larger audience. I occasionally do translation work for manga, and I plan to share new perspectives based on the knowledge I've gained from this experience. I also look forward to hearing your original opinions. Now, let's dive into what the straw hat truly signifies. To put it simply, I believe this straw hat represents the entire world of One Piece. In other words, this hat symbolizes the darkness currently overshadowing the world. If you want a quick answer to this theory, skip to this timestamp. However, it's easier to understand if you watch the entire explanation. On this blue planet, the descendants of the original 19 kingdoms, known as the Celestial Dragons, reside in Mariejois, ruling over the world. Everyone else lives below the red line, and all citizens of countries affiliated with the world government must continually pay heavenly tribute. Nations not affiliated with the world government become lawless zones, making life even harder for their inhabitants. Does this structure remind you of any specific country? Yes, the Goa Kingdom. At the center of this kingdom stands a plateau with the high town on top, where the nobles live. Above that, the royal palace houses the royalty. This setup makes the Goa Kingdom a successful example of a segregated society. The Goa Kingdom has been referred to as a microcosm of the world. This was highlighted when Dragon saved the people of the Grey Terminal from a fire. Before the visit of the celestial dragons, the kingdom tried to eradicate the Grey Terminal, considered a blemish on the nation, to present a clean country. Upon learning this, Dragon remarked, "There is no happiness in a world that purges unwanted things." What the current world government aims to do is exactly this: eliminate the inconvenient elements. Most of the people living in Hightown have ugly faces. It seems that if you get too cocky in front of Oda Sensei, the creator of the One Piece world, you'll end up with a face like this. There's another country that hides its inconvenient truth: Dressrosa. In this kingdom, anyone who knew the truth or dared to rebel was turned into toys. This erased their existence from the memories of the citizens, maintaining the rule of the Don Quixote family. Luffy's remark hits the mark. "This place reminds me of the country where I grew up." Sabo made a similar comment. "This country is like the one we grew up in." Interestingly, Dressrosa shares many similarities with the geography of the Blue Planet. In the center of the island stands the royal palace, mirroring Mariejois at the center of the Blue Planet. The structures extending to the left and right of the palace suggest the Red Line. Moreover, there is an isolated island called Greenbit, home to fairies. Similarly, beyond the Blue Planet, there's a star called Fairy Verth, originally inhabited by small robots. This makes Dressrosa, like the Goa Kingdom, a microcosm of the world. Ultimately, Doflamingo used the birdcage to initiate a death game, which symbolizes control. In a way, the entire world of One Piece is trapped inside this birdcage created by celestial dragons. Sabo, who was also controlled by his parents, used a metaphor saying, "I feel like I'm in a birdcage." The parallels between these kingdoms and the overarching world of One Piece highlight the pervasive nature of suppression and control. Does the shape of the birdcage remind you of anything? It closely resembles the shape of a straw hat. A straw hat, by design, is breathable, allowing heat and moisture to escape, and is worn to protect the head from the strong summer sun. Little Oars Jr. also liked a straw hat because it provided shade from the intense sunlight. In the iconic scene where Shanks gives Luffy his hat, the underside of the hat is ominously shaded black. Additionally, there are moments when shadows under the brim of the straw hat are prominently depicted. This shadowed state of the hat suggests it can enshroud people in darkness, symbolizing control. So, how can people be liberated from this controlled world? By turning the hat upside down. In other words, if we turn the birdcage upside down, we can free the people worldwide. This is exactly what Pedro referred to as the dawn of the world. When the straw hat is flipped, sunlight will reach the world. For some reason, Roger was already wearing the straw hat when he met Rayleigh. At that time, he said, "Why don't we turn the world upside down together?" This indicates that turning the world upside down and the straw hat are closely related. But who will turn the world upside down? That would be the D clan. D refers to the people who will turn the hat covering the world upside down. When you flip this hat, the letter D appears. And ultimately, this leads to bringing smiles to people's faces. 12 years ago, there was an incident where Sabo's ship was fired upon by the celestial dragons. Upon hearing this, Ace said, "I don't know what exactly killed Sabo, but I'm sure it was something that opposed freedom." The ones who shot Sabo were the celestial dragons, the symbol of control. In One Piece, the opposite of freedom is control. Sabo said, "This place is a birdcage. What is freedom? Where can I find it?" And so Sabo set out to sea in search of freedom. Where can true freedom be found? In the current world, the celestial dragons control the entire blue planet, so real freedom doesn't exist anywhere. True freedom can probably only be achieved by breaking the current system of oppression and overturning the birdcage that covers the world. The night before Luffy and Ace decided to become pirates and live more freely than anyone else, a moon shaped like a D appeared. It symbolized the moment they inherited the will of D. In other words, by overturning this birdcage, people will be free to spread their wings and soar across the world. The will of D is inherited by those who desire and fight for this freedom. Let's revisit the words spoken by Shanks that I mentioned at the beginning. I believe these words carry not only their literal meaning, but also a hidden message from Shanks to Luffy. In Japanese, it's common for a single word to have multiple meanings. Let's focus on the word azukeru. In Japanese, this word has various meanings, but its primary use is to entrust. This means to leave money or one's physical self in someone's care for safekeeping or oversight, which aligns with what Shanks said to Luffy. However, this verb has another meaning: to entrust someone with the responsibility of handling something. In this video, I have argued that the straw hat symbolizes the world. So this interpretation allows the phrase to mean, "I entrust the fate of this world to you." Shanks likely knew the true name of the Gomu Gomu no Mi was actually Hito Hito no Mi, model Nika. Therefore, he chose these words, deciding to leave the world's fate in the hands of Luffy, who possesses the power to liberate people from oppression as Nika. Next, let's delve into another aspect of the verb kaesu. Typically, kaesu means to return something. However, some might find it odd that Shanks didn't just entrust the straw hat to Luffy, but rather told him to bring it back. Why did he use this phrase instead of simply giving it to Luffy? One plausible reason is that Shanks wanted Luffy to become a pirate as strong as himself, knowing that only such strength could save the world and awaken the power of Nika. By setting himself as Luffy's goal, Shanks intended to push Luffy to grow. However, I believe there is an additional hidden intention behind the phrase, bring it back. The verb kaesu also has another meaning, to turn over or to flip. The full expression for this in Japanese is hikkurikaesu, which means to turn something upside down. There's a famous phrase, tenshi gaishi, which means to bring what's below to the top. So Shanks' words can also be interpreted as, one day come back and turn this world upside down. Let's take a look at the entire message again. As explained earlier, let's reinterpret the verbs azukeru and kaesu with their alternative meanings. Additionally, considering the theory that the straw hat symbolizes the world, let's substitute hat with world in his statement. This reveals a deeper message. I'm entrusting the fate of this world to you. This world is very important to me. One day, come back and turn it upside down as a great pirate." It almost feels like a message from Roger, entrusting the younger generation of pirates with the task of turning the world upside down. Roger, who held the straw hat symbolizing the world and the will to overturn the world, met Rayleigh. He found Shanks at God Valley and decided to entrust him with both the hat and his will. Then, Shanks passed that hat to Luffy, embedding a hidden message in his words. "I want you to turn the world upside down." After Luffy has overturned the world, he won't need to wear the straw hat anymore and will likely return it to Shanks. If Shanks is still alive at that time, Luffy would return the hat by turning it upside down, making it resemble a Sakazuki cup. If Shanks has passed away, Luffy will likely visit Shanks's grave and place the straw hat there as a tribute, similar to a ceremonial offering for the deceased. This explains why, in the depictions of Luffy 40 or 60 years later, he is no longer wearing the straw hat. Of course, he might pass the hat to the next generation, but personally, I feel it would be more satisfying if it ends with Shanks. This is because he serves as the final runner in this story, the anchor. In this video, we've discussed the hypothesis that the straw hat symbolizes the world of One Piece. However, there's another important mystery surrounding the straw hat. The straw hat that exists at the very top of the world. This hat is currently preserved in a frozen state. Given that Imu, who has presumably lived for 800 years, is the one preserving this hat, it's reasonable to think that this hat has been kept in frozen storage since the Void Century. So, what role did this hat play in the world of the past? I believe that in the world that existed over 800 years ago, there was a certain country where the people wore this straw hat. This region is likely the Kingdom of the Gods, which is said to have existed atop the Red Line. Ace gave Oars a hat made of straw to shield him from the sun's rays, as I mentioned earlier. At that time, Ace told Oars, "You're closer to the sun." The residents of the Kingdom of Gods lived closer to the sun than Oars did. While we still don't know what kind of people lived in the Land of the Gods, Marco's memory of a conversation with Whitebeard about the Kingdom of the Gods when he saw Arbol strongly suggests that the Lunarians lived there. Thus, it can be said that the Lunarians were physically closer to the sun. However, it's highly unlikely that straw could be grown on the Red Line. This is because it has been specifically explained that the forest in present-day Mariejois is artificial. This means that plants cannot grow in the soil of the Red Line. The food supply for the celestial dragons relies on the world below, and the Revolutionary Army included a siege strategy on Mariejois for this very reason. So, how did they obtain the straw hats? I believe that Joy Boy gifted the straw hats to the Lunarians. Joy Boy has a deep connection with Wano country. It was revealed by Odin that Wano's opening up is to welcome Joy Boy. This suggests that Joy Boy learned the craft of weaving straw hats from Amigasa village in Wano country and then gifted these hats to the people living in the Kingdom of Gods. Just as a straw hat forged a friendship between Ace and Oars, it is likely that a straw hat also created a bond between Joy Boy and the Lunarians. In fact, according to Arbol, the legend of Joy Boy has been passed down among the Lunarians. However, there's a fundamental issue that still needs to be discussed. Some of you might already have thought of it. The Lunarians have flames burning on their backs. Even if their bodies are resistant to fire, a straw hat they wear would quickly catch fire. In fact, Ace, who had the powers of the Mera Mera no Mi, reportedly burned his straw hat many times while trying to weave it. So, how did Joy Boy solve this problem? He likely used a special kind of straw that doesn't burn to make the straw hat. In the world of One Piece, there are many mysterious plants, like the indestructible treasure tree Adam and the iron-hard Konash. It wouldn't be surprising if there were straw that doesn't burn. The straw hat in Imu's room has been kept frozen for so long because it couldn't be burned and disposed of. Freezing it was the only way to seal it. Perhaps the straw hat that Luffy inherited from Roger also uses this special, non-burning straw, which is why it never catches fire, no matter how many times it is exposed to flames. Incidentally, if there truly exists a straw that never burns, it could be the material that makes the eternal flame possible. Lilith mentioned researching what to burn to create an everlasting flame. Let's consider whose hat this might be. As many have speculated, it's likely that this hat belonged to Joy Boy. In the world of One Piece, there are several instances where objects are depicted as having a will or soul. Odin, on the brink of death, said, "My spirit will live on." And indeed, Kaido sensed Odin's haki from the Enma sword that Zoro inherited. If this hat belonged to Joy Boy, it wouldn't be surprising if his soul remained within it. This might be why Imu attempted to burn the hat but failed, ultimately deciding to freeze and preserve it instead. When Luffy brings the dawn to the world, this hat will likely be defrosted and bathed in sunlight, turned upside down to symbolize the world's awakening.